Good afternoon, class. Today we are going to talk about obstacles in our dystopian novel. For obstacles, we're going to see three different types of obstacles that our characters are going to possibly face. And first, please write this in your notebook if you haven't already. And then we'll move on to our lesson. Our learning target today is dystopian novels usually include systemic obstacles, political or societal obstacles, as well as personal ones. Let's talk a little bit about what that means um, in our in our posters here. So, dystopian novels usually have characters face not only personal and external obstacles, but also systemic obstacles. So, readers figure out what kinds of obstacles the characters face. Types of obstacles. Let's talk about personal obstacles. This is something that you would be familiar with. Your inner thoughts, your conflicts like jealousy or embarrassment. When just day to day, everybody has personal obstacles. What are some examples from some personal obstacles we're reading in the Hunger Games? One thing you can think about is when Katniss was getting ready for the Hunger Games and she shot that arrow into the window, and she was really worried about her family and whether or not they were going to harm her family because of what she'd done. These are all internal thoughts that are going and spinning through her head. As we read, we listen to why are these characters concerned about them? what does this what does this mean? What does this say about their character and this type of person? The next type of obstacles are external. So personal would be more internal. External obstacles are outside problems like forgetting about a math test or fighting a villain. So forgetting about a math test is something that you might be familiar with. Fighting a villain is something you might see in a dystopian novel. The last one is maybe the most confusing, which is the political systemic obstacles. Systemic is a word that derives from system. So we have a system of operations when talking about the world right now. We are in a system of democracy with the United States. These are things that you learn in your social studies class, that a system is what our rules, our politics, things that we are accustomed to. These are our rules and policies that are baked into the system or culture. Power and tradition, things like poverty, things like school, how much money school districts get from the government. Those are policies put into place. When thinking about it in a dystopian view, how does that change? The system is much different. In the Hunger Games, they have this whole reaping. That's a cultural systemic policy, and it's an obstacle that these characters go through. And then the whole going through the games, doing the different obstacles in that Hunger Game. Those can be external obstacles. They can also be systemic obstacles. I'd like you to think about these different obstacles as you're reading today. How does this show up in the Hunger Games? Today, before you leave, I want you to write in your notebook about your reading. Finish these three sentences: a personal obstacle in my book, an external obstacle, and a systemic obstacle. Try and think of three different things that I didn't just explain during this lesson. When you're done, you can show them to me and you can open up your book and keep reading. Remember, by tomorrow, you should have your finished DIY through chapter 14. A lot of you are already finished with that. Those who aren't, maybe bring your book and your DIY home today as you get released early. Cuddle up with the book, read, write, and take a little bit of time for yourself doing that. Um, make sure you get that exit ticket done. And if you have any questions, raise your hand and I will come to you as soon as I can.